The Alice Killings, reading done by Moon Stories. The Alice Killings remain to this day one of the strangest and unsolvable serial killings in Japan. From 1999 to 2005, a series of 5 killings took place. The 5 killings might have been completely different if not for the calling card that the killer left at each of the crime scenes. He would leave a playing card, quote, "It varied from killing to killing," end quote, at each scene, in an obvious location that had Alice written on it in the victim's blood. Very few clues were found at each crime scene, and eventually the case went cold. Below are the details of each killing. Sasaki Megumi. The first victim was Sasaki Megumi, a 29-year-old owner of a restaurant. Those who know her described her as a headstrong woman with a short temper and a sharp tongue when dealing with her employees. She was known by her customers for her fine cooking and dedication to her job. Outside the job, Megami was a very social and often went to parties. It was after one such party that she went missing. She decided to walk home from her friend's house, seeing as she was only a block from home, and she was a bit too drunk to drive. Several people offered to take her home, but she shrugged it off. She was seen leaving the party at 1 in the morning, and this was the last time she was seen alive. The next morning, a couple in the woods about a mile from Megumi's house saw a large amount of blood on an overgrown, unused path. Curious, of course, they followed it, where they found Megumi's body. She had been torn apart, her parts impaled on various tree branches. The couple, of course, called the police. It was the police that had found the playing card crammed into Megumi's mouth. It was a jack of spades which had the word Alice written on it in blood. There was no fingerprints, prints, or DNA to be found. There was vomit on the scene, but the female of the couple admitted it was hers. The next victim is Yuami Aiko. Yuami Aiko was a barely known singer in a band that never played anything more than at various bars and community functions. His friends described him as a kind-hearted man who had never raised his voice in an offstage. Aftermath. Shortly after the death of the Oshiro siblings, a man named Suzuki Yoto was arrested for the murders. He was a bum with severe mental problems who claimed to be not remembering where he was at the time of any of the murders. Most damning evidence of all is that he was seen wearing a coat that belonged to Yame Akio. A bit of blood on the sleeve tested positive to be his. Yoto, who was raving at this point, claimed that a demon black man with no face had given him the coat. Yoto was eventually released when a homeless shelter 5 miles from the Kai household claimed to have Yoto in their files for the night of the Sakura murder. Since there was no way for him to get to where she was abducted and back without being noticed, Yoto was released. On April 30, 2008, a producer known as Yugami P uploaded his first song to Nico Video called Hashobavia Arisio, translated roughly as Alice of Human Sacrifice. The song is believed to be based off of the Alice Killings. It tells the story of a little dream who lures people into its world and then goes on to tell the story of each Alice. The song has a few parallels with each of the killings. The first Alice, depicted as Miko, was trapped in the woods, which is where Megumi's body was found. The second Alice, depicted as Kato, was a singer who was shot by a madman. The third Alice, depicted as Hatsune Miku, was well-loved, became the country's queen, and taken over by a distorted dream. The fourth Alice, depicted as Kagami Rin and Lin, was a pair of twins regarded as one Alice. They are described as stubborn big sister and intelligent young brother. It also speaks of how they have quote-unquote yet to be awakened, a possible reference to them dying in their sleep. In addition, in The suits of each of the cards were found by each body are also mentioned. Yagami P has not stated for sure if the song has any relation to the Alice killings, but it is widely assumed. Oshiro, Hayato, and Hina. These two were the last of the killings, and the least gruesome. Hayato and Hina were siblings and very close. Hina was the elder sister and was very stubborn. Her younger brother, Hayato, was very smart and had skipped a grade, causing him to be in the same class as his beloved sister. The two rarely fought, as most siblings tended to do. The two were found dead in their beds April 4th, 2005. The cause of death was a lethal injection. The children's bedroom window was open, and it was deducted from that the killer snuck in quietly enough to kill the two without waking them, and then snuck out. Each card held half of an Alice Hearts playing card that, when put together, spelled out the word Alice. One very smudged footprint was found in the carpet, but with closer inspection, it was made impossible by the severe damage done to the print. This was the only piece of evidence, other than the playing card, left at the scene. A year later, the mother of Hayato and Hina committed suicide out of grief. Their father, who is still alive to this day, is going through extensive therapy to get over their death of his entire family. At this moment, he is extremely depressed and heavily medicated. Kai Sakura. A teen girl, Kai Sakura had her whole life ahead of her. She was a sweet girl and well loved by her classmates and relatives. She wanted to go to college to be a fashion designer and was a week from graduating high school when she was abducted. Sakura's family went frantic trying to find her, and the whole town was calmed trying to find the lost girl. Her body was found 2 days later, buried in a very shallow grave. It didn't seem like the killer wanted her hidden. On the contrary, he had marked her grave with her Alice playing card, the Queen of Clubs. It had been taped to a stick and stuck on top of the grave. Sakura's body had been horribly mutilated. Her eyes had been carved from her body, her skin was fade, and her mouth has been carved open. A crown had been sewn into her head, likely while she was alive. No sexual crimes had been committed, either pre or post-mortem. Along with Sakura's body was a note, written in straggly handwriting. It contained many disjointed phrases, some of which were unreadable. Death is a distorted dream. She will forever rule, and ha ha, those which die are the lucky ones, were various phrases that had been written among others. A match to the handwriting was never found. Yamane Aiko. Yamane Aiko was a barely known singer in a band that never played anything more than at various bars and community functions. His friends described him as a kind-hearted man who would never raise his voice off stage. After his death, his band fell apart, not having the heart to find a new singer. Akio was abducted from his apartment on February 11th, 2001. His bandmates were the last people to see him alive, as he had practiced with them earlier in the day. That night, his girlfriend came to visit him, and was surprised to find that the house was empty. Within days, a missing persons report was filed, and the search for him began. On the security footage of the apartment, a hooded figure could be seen entering through the slide door and leaving with a large garbage bag that bulged really strangely. This strange appearance was never accounted for, and no one saw the strange man in person. This man is widely believed to be the killer, but his face was never shown, and there appears to be some doubt. The following week, the owner of the bar, Yoshida's, quote, where the band had often performed, end quote, was opening for the day and was met with a grisly sight. Slumped at a table was Akio's body. His vocal cords had been ripped from his throat and he had been shot in the head. His Alice card was a king of diamonds, and was found clenched in his hands along with his ruined vocal cords.